Dungeon Masters of Reddit. What was the most troublesome PC you had to DM for, and how did they die? Part 1. My friend plays a character he calls the Cleric of Love. Basically, the idea is that if you get some damage and need a minor healing spell, he gives your character a hug or a kiss, something along those lines. We thought it was kinda cute at first. However, the more damaged or stronger the healing spell needed meant that the further it went. It got super creepy. Yeah, I'm creeped out a little bit too. One time he rolled successfully to resurrect another character. The guy decided to play it like full-on necrophilia the guy to life. That's fucked up. Not a fan. At one point, he wanted to cast a heal on himself. I was going to let this slide until he RP'd that his character pulled his pants down and started jacking it. He failed the roll. Character ripped his own dick off through clumsy masturbation and died from the damage. The rest of the party left his body bleeding from the crotch for giant rats to find. I had a PC who focused his entire build on being great at casting one spell, Glitter Dust. This was back in 3.5, so here's how it worked. Glitter Dust is ostensibly a spell for detecting invisible creatures, but it is also an AoE blind that isn't affected by spell resistance and lasts 1/round per level. We were in the level 6 to 9 area, so that's basically the whole combat, especially if you're blind and can't really fight back. He had pumped the save DC to around 29 to 30, which was more or less impossible for opposition of their level to face. Every fight involved 3 to 4 castings of Glitter Dust on the entire opposition. The other PCs would then slaughter or capture all the blinded enemies who were wandering around aimlessly, covered in magical glitter. I had a discussion with the PC and the party about how he was trivializing every encounter and gave them a few choices. We continue on with nearly every combat encounter consisting of a group of heroic adventurers stabbing blind creatures to death. I overhaul the opposition to include creatures that are largely immune to blinding, such as oozes, aberrations, and the like. The Glitter Duster dies. Glitter Duster's player championed choice number 3. He wrote his death into the plot. It was the only way for the party to defeat a trio of demons that had been summoned to assassinate him. It was very noble, and I was very glad I didn't have to deal with any more goddamn glitter dust. Standard D&D, standard character creation, standard weapons.
Hey man, I pull out my AK-47.
A red dragon flies down from the sky and eats you.
Wait, that's not fair, there was no dragon.
Here's a particular type of player that every dungeon master encounters at some point. He's a loud, talkative individual, and his constant attempt at jokes are made all the more annoying by his subtle but still evident social awkwardness. This fellow will always play as either the rogue or a sorcerer, usually with a focus on employing his charisma, and whenever possible, he'll do his best to make the story center on him and his exploits. His, sexual exploits, that is. For a brief period in college, I was the dungeon master for a group that included that player. The campaign was one of my own devising, having to do with a world-ending cataclysm that some other band of adventurers, non-player characters, was intent on stopping. My group's party, on the other hand, had taken it upon themselves to raid the sprawling fortress where the aforementioned apocalypse had been first prophesized, convinced as they were that a monumentally powerful artifact had been hidden in the catacombs beneath it. I may be a bit biased, but I personally thought it was a pretty good setting. Although it might have been better if that player hadn't tried to seduce every female he encountered. See, this fortress in question was the size of a small city, and it had a number of factions dwelling within it. Some of those sects were only too happy to offer aid and assistance, while others viewed the player characters for what they were. They were a group of greedy marauders, basically. Every single time someone started interacting with a woman, though, the fellow in question would interject with his allegedly comedic attempts at charm. That area is closed to outsiders, a female NPC might say. But if you can get into the sewer system, you might...
I'd like to get into her sewer system,
that player would interrupt.
She digs me. I can tell.
You, get the idea. This went on for far, far longer than I should have allowed, but I had been planning to punish the guy at the campaign's midpoint. When the party finally found their way to the artifact, they discovered that it wasn't an item or a weapon, it was a living statue of a young woman. Needless to say, that player immediately tried to bed the sculpture, and this time, against all odds, she, or it, I suppose, was receptive to his advances. Of course, I made it look like the fellow had just beaten out my dice rolls, but he didn't really care. All that mattered to him was that he'd gotten some. As he discovered a moment or two later, though, he'd also gotten stuck. It was about then that reinforcements arrived, intent on protecting their monumentally powerful artifact from theft. They weren't too pleased to find a rogue attached to their idol, and they responded appropriately. The fellow didn't actually die, but he did spend the rest of his campaign with one fewer appendage. Since he also made it very clear to everyone that the body part in question was the source of his skills, he wound up impotent, and in more ways than one. TLDR, sexy statue solicits severe suffering. Oh, I like that tongue twister. Well, there was this one character who convinced all the other characters to kill a guard and make a meat toboggan out of his body, to try to climb a gate using the aforementioned guard's entrails, or with an entrail rope. And then he started attacking the other PCs and doing other crazy things, which made the others do crazy things. I had to kill him and the others off with a horde of red dragons. Maybe it was overkill, but it was worth it. Had a player try to use a spell he didn't have to target something the spell couldn't target and achieve an effect that the spell couldn't achieve. What the fuck? He then lost his mind like me and rage quit the group when I denied him. We were going to do an online Pathfinder campaign. For those who don't know, Pathfinder is essentially D&D with some modified rules. This player was stuck between wanting to play a druid or a ranger and eventually decided that he would multi-class. We were starting at level 1. He was talking to me one day before our campaign was going to start and let me in on his master plan. I had allowed him his ranger companion as a non-combatant pet and declared that the pet would become combat capable once he had the appropriate ranger level. I felt this made more sense than a pet that he had no previous relationship with suddenly showing up when he leveled. He therefore was starting play as a druid with a non-combative wolf pup. He explained that as soon as the game started, he was going to use the druid spell Wild Shape to magically age his ranger wolf pup and make it a more formidable and combat-ready beast. I explained to him that this wouldn't work because of the following. His character didn't have the Wild Shape spell yet. Wild Shape is a personal spell and can only be used on yourself. As an example, you can't target something else with it. Wild Shape does not magically age anything. He threw a fit, claiming that his last DM let him do whatever he wanted because his last DM understood the rules better. I explained that we were indeed using the rules and that he couldn't use a spell that he didn't have to target something the spell couldn't target and achieve an effect that the spell couldn't achieve. He threatened to quit the group, and I suggested that it sounded like that would be a good idea. So he rage quit and stopped talking to me. We'd been online playing the same games for a while and had a decent friendship. After I had run a few sessions, he started talking to the other players and asking them about how horrible the sessions were being run by a DM that doesn't know anything. He was apparently told that they were going really well and he shouldn't have quit. He was sending messages to people in our online gaming community, some of which weren't even involved in the Pathfinder campaign, saying that I should be removed from the group because I wasn't letting him play. He was told by a few people to stop bothering them, and he eventually quit the online gaming group completely. Let me tell you the ballads of Captain Nope and Uncle Touchy. Oh god, I hate it already. Captain Nope and I played together many times, both as DM and fellow PC. The monkeyer comes from his refusal to enter any situation that has danger or risk. Enter the creepy tower? Nope, fuck that. This guy would then pout and rage quit if things didn't go his way. While playing through Tomb of Horrors that a buddy was DMing, he went through a portal that sent him and a fellow PC back to the beginning, but naked and without possessions. Rage quit. Another time, he got paralyzed and went outside and smoked his pipe and refused to roll his saves. He never died because he ran away from everything and rage quit constantly. He got banned from our games because everyone was tired of his shit and having him hold the sessions hostage. Uncle Touchy was a random person that joined a new game through a local Facebook group. Older than us, played the worst wizard ever. If he missed with a spell, he would pout, sulk, and become envious of other players who were having more success in combat encounters. Another player was min-maxing a fighter into almost godlike brokenness. Uncle Touchy took this as a personal affront and would post these rambling tirades on the Facebook group, always threatening to quit the game. Word got out that he was a convicted sex offender, oh fuck, and sure as shit he was on the local pederast list. Coincidentally, this info came out right when he posted another diatribe about the fighter and threatened to quit. Everyone was through coddling him and was now uncomfortable with his past. So, we told him if he was bothered so much, he should quit, and he did. Later on in the campaign, we investigated a series of mysterious disappearances of children. They brought him back as a villain. Most satisfying combat encounter ever. I was, the troublesome PC. Well, this was back in the day of 1st edition D&D, and we were playing a Forgotten Realms campaign. Even did the awful Shadowdale trilogy to convert to 2nd edition at one point. Never do that. Anyway, I was playing a chaotic nutso thief who had, through circumstances I no longer recall, acquired a magical amulet of arachnidia. Through the use of a wish, he made the abilities from it a genetic trait, and thus his new race was born. The Spider Gnome. He was a Tinker Gnome before. One of the abilities he gained from this was Spider Climb at will, which he used constantly, especially in dungeons. His standard MO was to constantly remain on the ceiling and travel that way to scout ahead, assuming he was less likely to set off traps that way. Keep in mind that his character was played long-term and was fairly high level. So, we go into a dungeon of some sort, nothing exceptional. My character goes up on the ceiling and scouts ahead. I miss a roll and somehow my character climbs right into a lurker above, which proceeds to fuck my character's shit up. The party finally manages to save him, but he's now at 0 HP and bleeding. They see a bench against a wall and decide to set him on the bench to dress his wounds and heal him up. The bench was a mimic. Killed the character immediately. Was the absolutely best setup for a character I've ever seen. I can only aspire to the heights that particular DM achieved. Howdy everyone, Brian here. Quick stop in before the end of the video to hope everyone is doing well. I've been reading a lot of your comments on the videos and responding as much as I possibly can. I don't want y'all to feel left out. When I end up streaming, I will have days where we just sit about and talk about random stuff, and I may even read a lot of your stories out live if you wish, though you'll have to put up with some stuttering and me being a dumbass from time to time. I do tend to do that a little bit, so you'll get to see the inside info of all that. It'll be kind of cool. I thought it'd be a nice way to give back to the people who genuinely enjoy our content though, and more so who enjoy my narrations and craziness. I also hope you've been enjoying this month's content a lot more, as I've been trying my best to grow as a narrator and voice actor, putting more realistic life into each reading, depending on the mood or tone of the story. Not like I haven't done it before, but I'm trying to vary the moods even more as much as possible. It ain't hard, but I certainly enjoy playing with things, so there you go. That said, if you did like the vid, of course, leave us a like and some love in the comments. And if you're new, hey, welcome to the party, pal. Give us a sub and always tune in to see what kind of crazy stories we have to offer. On the topic of stories, if you have one you'd like to share, you can do so below in the comments or up in our subreddit. Link is in the description. As always, be safe during these troubling times, and for me, just for me, say hello to someone new. Share the love and share the warmth, because honestly, we all deserve it, and at this time in life, we can't get enough of it. So share it all out, be happy, be safe, and we will see you next time. Bye for now.